He's not. They won't let him.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, and I'm joined by the same awesome group of guys that always comes on here and makes me look pretty stupid, honestly, if I'm honest. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's the White House's week in South Africa news on Council on Future Conflicts, episode 5. Is it 514 or is it 515? I don't know.
Are we going to do this again?
We don't have to talk about it, but I just don't. I honestly don't know what episode it is. Here on the Future Conflict channel, my name is Scott, and I'm joined by Blaine Pardo. Blaine, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's book launch day, man. I'm always happy.
I know you got the new one out. Why don't you tell people real quick about it, where it fits in the storyline? It's the last of the new trilogy, right?
Yeah, it's the second season trilogy. It's for Land and Sea. This is the third book in it. So we wrap up a lot of the storylines there. A lot of fun. Just a lot of fun. Any book where I could get to play with my character, Adam Keene, is just always a blast because Keene is a force of nature.
Yeah. That I tell you what, Blaine, that series has got more than one just kind of standout character. I mean, like you literally have like 5 characters I could think of that could run their own stories. So
yeah, I enjoy it. Thank you, though. I enjoy it. I'm finishing up today, book 3 of Tenure, and sending it over to Mike so he can tweak what I've written. So.
Yeah, that's
a lot going on, man.
I tell you what, you go from success to success, Blaine, and we're lucky to have you here. So thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Joe, how you doing, brother? I know you got the live studio audience there.
We have a live studio audience in Big Fork, Montana. Some folks here, longtime show fans sitting over there in the corner, and so it's pretty cool. We're happy to be out here. We had a sighting of the Duke of Montana last night. I was actually on the property here. It is at the Duke's military outpost. We have a bunch of folks around a campfire last night, and we're ready to kick off a week of classes. Going to be a great time. If you're not here, you probably should have been, but that's okay. That's okay. You can come next time. So, hey, we're happy to be here this morning.
Yeah, you guys are doing some awesome stuff out there. I'm jealous. I wish I could be there. But, the good news is, Joe, when I finally get back, I'll be back forever. So
that is a good thing. We had some discussion about that last night, too. So that's cool.
I'm so happy to kind of move on with the next thing. Watcher, how you doing?
Forever be? I mean, where are you coming back to?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly where I will be, hanging my hat when I come back. But, we're looking at the south, southeast.
He has applied to several states and been rejected. So
that's right. I apparently overdue library books in multiple states will get you barred from reentry. So, though the Buckies have told me that I could be a refugee in their commonwealth. So good deal. Watcher, speaking of Buckies, how you doing, brother?
We should be so lucky as to have a Buckies commonwealth. Doing good. Watching
you don't need to feel all of that.
Watching a hell of a lot of crash outs online the last few days. I'll tell you that much. We're going to be going over a couple of them in the show. But yeah, it has been an interesting 48-hour period since our last show, Scott.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking your thread that got a little bit of traction and had the wackos coming out of the woodwork. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that. We got some, the South Africa thing is more than just, it's more than just us talking about the South Africa thing. It's a very comprehensive look into that. And we switch the order on these two, because I want to make sure that both Blaine and Joe have the ability to kind of weigh in on that one. So it'll be a good discussion. All right, gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump right into the odds and ends because I know everybody's time is limited today. The first one, Joe, we haven't talked about the Sudanese. We haven't had a Sudan update, but ultimately the RSF has been kind of on the, and been getting it for the worse for the wear recently. But this thread does a really good job of kind of now, I'm not going to co-sign his point of view or whatever, because I'll be honest with you, I don't have a dog in the fight in Sudan, but it's good to understand who the kind of the meta players are, right? Because right now it's two sides in Sudan fighting each other. And that sounds like, oh, well, what could that have to do with anything that has anything to do with us? Well, the fact is this is in reality a proxy war. It's an old school proxy war where two much bigger powers basically have locals in their own country fighting each other, and it's them going back and forth. And this is not the only place in Africa where this is happening right now. Oddly enough, both Sudan and Libya have these same two players involved. So let me just kind of go through a couple of these posts, and then I'm going to turn it over to my esteemed counsel to kind of kick this around. When the Sudanese military hit the Nyala airport controlled by rival RSF early in May with Turkish drones, they celebrated. Yet they little knew that the military cargo plane that they had literally burned to the ground was carrying Emirati officers, killing them. Let's see. The Emiratis, through RSF drones and missiles, responded to the attack a day later by hitting Port Sudan, the country's de facto capital. They hit the airport and hangars where Turkish-made drones were stored, injuring some Turks. So what you're basically getting is UAE v Turkey. Turkey has dispatched an air ambulance jet the same day to pick up the wounded, and the entire city that hosts consulates, humanitarian organizations, and government buildings have become a no-fly zone. This wasn't the first sign of tensions between UAE and Turkey over Sudan. The UAE was already agitated by Turkey's drone sales to Sudan, which also we used them to recapture the Khartoum in February. In response, the UAE hacked the Turkish drone company documents, dumping them to the Washington Post. And so you've got this headline here. We're like, yeah, right here. A Turkish arms firm helped fuel Sudan's brutal civil war, records show. So basically kind of showing Turkey's ass to the rest of the world. The UAE, in response to Turkish drone sales, accelerated the arms delivery to the RSF through bases in Puntland, Bosaso, and Uganda over the course of months. Some RSF fired drones from Puntland to the target Port Sudan. Others believe another base in North Darfur was used. The whole UAE-Turkey military tensions alarmed Ankara, who dispatched Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan to an emergency mission to Abu Dhabi earlier this month, who tried to calm the waters. UAE denies involvement whatsoever in Sudan, but since the RSF continued to attack Port Sudan, no civilian flights have occurred due to these attacks. So it says here, Turkish sources believe the UAE would be deepening its military involvement in the near future, accelerating the civil war in Sudan, which isn't a good news for the Sudanese government, who cut ties with Abu Dhabi this month. And Ankara doesn't intend to do that. Joe, I'm going to throw this to you. UAE versus Turkey. You hate to see it happen, but this is where the let them fight meme kind of sometimes should enter the chat.
I hate to see it happen, but I also love to see it happen. Couldn't happen to two better people. I'm not a fan of either one of them. When you've got a war that involves all bad guys and they're all fighting, it's hard to work up an emotional attachment. But that being said, in this one, I would have to vote for the UAE as much as I hate to, because I really despise the Turks. But this is what happens when everyone wants to get involved in running these proxy wars. You end up putting your people at risk and in actual harm's way. I'm not even sure that the Emirati forces knew there were Turks there. They knew there were Turkish materiel there, but I don't know that they knew that there were Turkish technicians there.
Yeah.
This is the same problem we've ran into in Ukraine, where some of the supply depots and weapon stockpiles have been hit, and third-party nationals have been killed, Brits and French most specifically, and a few Americans. And these are how wars spiral out of control. Some wise guy once said that World War III will be a collection of regional wars and civil wars. So that guy's pretty smart. I don't remember exactly who it was, but he's pretty smart.
I can't remember that guy's name. Could it be
Strategic smartness, I think is his name.
Yeah, something. I don't know.
But this also points to a bigger issue. Turkey is engaged all the way across the MENA region, right? They're engaged in Libya, they're engaged in Sudan, they're engaged in Syria, and they're engaged at home. They're also engaged in a limited way in northern Iraq. So it's kind of a big swath of land that they're engaged over. So interesting.
Yeah. Blaine, I mean, this is one of those kind of one of those, I don't hate to use the term shadow war because it's not really a shadow war. It's kind of out in the open, but when you're fighting through proxies, it tends to, and that's kind of what we saw happen in Yemen when both Saudi Arabia and UAE directly and through proxies fought the Houthis in Yemen, who were the proxies of Iran. So this is not something new to the region. Both of these countries also host opposing sides in Libya, and we're gonna. There's actually some really good footage that's come out of Libya, Joe. I don't know if we have it for the show today, but anyway, Blaine, let me bring it back to you. When you see this kind of like inter-regional conflict going on, where does it take you as far as like what we can expect next?
Well, for me, I always kind of question what's the difference now between Iran and Turkey, because I'm not seeing a lot of difference. And, they're both spawning fights all over the place and creating chaos. And it's all designed to destabilize the region for their own benefit. And, this is one of those cases where I really don't care how many bodies get stacked up on either side. I've got no dog in this hunt. I just view it as this is just more evidence of Turkey not being a great country and not being a great ally in any way, shape, or form. They are literally going out and causing problems around there. And this is the kind of stuff the USA used to get yelled at for propping up governments and doing this stuff. Now they're doing it. The fact that the UAE is fighting back and equipping the other side, I don't care. It's Sudan. If anybody thinks Sudan is going to rise to be a world power at any point in our lifetimes, you're clearly hitting the alcohol early today.
Either you need more or less, one or the other.
Exactly right.
Squishy, hold on. I have to make it a comment here. Squishy Hunter wins with the when your package ships and when it delays comments. But he also mentioned bayonets. So I have to share something I forgot to mention in the beginning. One of our show followers, Matt, brought me this scale AK-47 or AK-74 actually, complete with removable bayonet. So
does it shoot BBs?
It does. It does.
That's awesome.
It's very cool. And so we have a show bayonet just for bayoneting you, our favorite viewer.
That is a toy, by the way, YouTube, not a real firearm. So it is a toy with the properly marked orange tip on the end.
It has the orange tip on it, which is going to come off later today. So
just the tip, though.
Just the tip. Just the tip.
That's right.
We went there pretty early.
Hey,
what do I have to lose?
Welcome to Brett Weir, Project 223 in the chat, who will be teaching a first aid class with me right here at Camp Ponderosa during Shield Field Days. So,
now, Joe, I wanted to share this with both of you. Actually, Blaine, I could see this coming out of one of your books as well. but in an American context. Joe, I don't know if you've seen this video yet, but this is the other proxy war that both Turkey and UAE are involved in. So I thought we could watch this street scene. And Joe, give me some thoughts on this. Little port firing weapon there.
Where is this, Libya?
Yeah. This is in Tripoli.
Wow. I'll wait till it's done. So, when you come into my fieldcraft class, I teach you the most important skill in movement is never walk backwards, right? Because you will fall down, you will trip over things. Let me just say that in mounted vehicle ops, never drive backwards for the same reason, right? You're going to run into things. I get it. It's the only way they can get their truck bed mounted Dishka to fire. But if your driver can't see where he's going and there are pieces of metal flying through the air, nothing good is going to come of this.
I wonder if they're trying to maximize their ability to get out of trouble faster than they got into trouble. Maybe I don't, I don't know what the
just flip it into drive.
That those Dishka mounts on trucks are generally they're used as an infantry fighting vehicle, not actually an armored vehicle like they're trying to use it for. They generally put them in position and then fire.
Not to be pedantic, Joe, but I think those are twin ZSU 23s. But they both had the gun shield, so it's like at least there was some amount of steel between the driver and with that. But you're right. I mean, you're backing up into. I just hope that the cartels don't see this footage and we start seeing them drive their monster trucks into the battle backwards.
I hope we do, because that would just be silly. And
always charge forward with your gas tank first.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Blaine. That's an excellent point. Anyway, so I just thought so the thing is these Toyota pickup trucks are everywhere on the Haftar side, the LNA side of the fight in Libya, because those are coming directly through the Gulf states, are paying for those and shipping them in directly. And I
believe money in that too, right?
Say that again, Blaine.
Is that the exhaust kit for water that they've got?
Yeah, it's a snorkel. Yeah.
What the hell are they driving in water in Tripoli?
Good question.
River crossings.
Yeah. But the bongo truck is a legit tactical vehicle. So
just a fun and interesting thought. We had a ton of drownings in Iraq and Afghanistan, and almost all of them were from crossing canals and vehicles getting bogged down.
I feel like this guy's dead. The way he he's laying there. Watch, look at him. He just looks like he's been he doesn't look like he's moving, or maybe he's hunched down to where he's looking through the middle of the guns. I don't know. Watcher, I think we should tag this piece of footage for the new intro when we redo the intro.
I agree. Can you link it to me in DMs?
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Those guys are clearly expert gunners. They've been trained well and totally did not just walk out of their apartment and jump in the back of this truck and fire the weapon for the first time.
Yeah, well, I mean,
props to the drivers, though. I mean, they didn't hit anybody.
Well, they backed up in formation. I mean, that's actually pretty good for backup driving. So, I mean, I agree with Joe. You shouldn't back up into combat, but if you're going to do it, I mean, at least they look like they practice it.
Yeah, do it in style.
The other one that I wanted to show you, Joe, and I wanted to see. Did you see this one right here? The port firing weapon this guy's got. And actually, they've got ports on all the windows, and so it makes me wonder if this isn't an armored vehicle.
It looks to me
I don't know what the logo is on that truck, but probably some sort of police vehicle. But it actually
it looks like there was like a sticker on there, and maybe they've torn it off.
Is he firing an RPD or something through that window?
Yes, some sort of. It doesn't really. It looks more like maybe like. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't make that out. Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting kind of study in the kind of things you see in these brush wars. Not the most professional stuff, but hey, this is exactly the kind of thing we would see if something like this happened in America.
What? Those guys aren't professional. What?
No.
I know. It's crazy. All right, let's move on. Kind of a completely different on a completely different topic. Supreme Court wrestles with nationwide injunctions in birthright citizenship cases. I just wanted to I wanted to talk about this because I think this is two things, right? Injunctions and birthright citizenship, right? These are two separate things, right? The nationwide injunctions, which basically allow all the unelected federal judges all over the country to be able to essentially supersede anything the executive branch does. And so I think that is absolutely nuts. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this piece of video. So play this video clip down here. This is Ketanji Brown Jackson arguing that the nationwide injunctions by district judges to block Trump's agenda is actually what we would want. Let's listen to this.
I would think we'd want the system to move as quickly as possible to reach the merits of the issue and maybe have this court decide whether or not the government is entitled to do this under the law. Wouldn't having universal injunctions actually facilitate that? It seems to me that when the government is completely enjoined from doing the thing it wants to do, it moves quickly to appeal that, to get it to the Supreme Court, and that's actually what we would want. What I worry about is similar to what Justice Kagan points out, is that if the government is saying no lower court can completely enjoin it, it actually means that the government just keeps on doing the purportedly unlawful thing, and it delays the ability for this court to reach the underlying issue.
Gentlemen,
Well,
I'll
Being
open up
disregarded on the basis that Ketanji Jackson Brown is a moron.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, she still doesn't know what a woman is, by the way.
Well, this is what happens when you hire DEI.
Yeah.
That you get people like this who go, oh, this is a good thing. I thought the best argument, honestly, was made by Clarence Thomas, because he said, look, up to 1960, we didn't have any of these. Zero. And now we are being inundated with them. What the hell has changed? And it's a good point. I think it's a solid point. Her going, oh, this is, and they quickly get to the Supreme Court. I would point out that it took 5 months for this to get there.
Yeah.
So this isn't quick at all. This is not, this is something that will bog down this administration. And I think the other justices know it. I think she struggles to write her stuff with the alphabets in her breakfast cereal.
Yeah. I'd say she's probably got a decent group of handlers that hand her a note that pops out of that breakfast cereal.
Yeah,
giving her speeches. But I will say that it is quite devious of them. Why was this not an issue before 1960? Well, because the Democrats didn't make a concerted effort to get as many Democrats elected into lower level judgeship positions as possible until after 1960.
The sad part is we're stuck with her until she dies or retires. So, you got to have
what you get when you say my sole criteria for selecting a Supreme Court justice is the kind of plumbing they have and the color of their skin.
Yeah.
That should have never entered into the factor for a Supreme Court justice. And we are reaping what we have sown.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, so the Clarence Thomas's thing actually was a kind of like a master class in that, listen, there's a reason why this kind of stuff didn't have it, because essentially, nobody would have ever really thought that this is something that they had the ability to do at these levels. So like one of the big things with Thomas is he says here he's concerned with the impact of nationwide injunctions on separation of powers. By allowing lower courts to issue such broad injunctions, there is a risk that the judiciary could interfere with the executive branch's ability to implement policies, thus disrupting the balance of power envisioned by the Constitution. Thomas believes that this could lead to a scenario where policy disputes are resolved through judicial fiat rather than the legislation or executive action. The sad thing is that literally any action taken by the executive branch could then be enjoined by a court that finds any kind of disagreement or daylight between two parties on the issue the executive branch is trying to do.
And
don't like
not
the
even by the Supreme Court, by some magistrate in outer Podunk, Iowa.
Right. So. Well, don't like the Easter egg hunt on the White House lawn. Hey, let's enjoin it. Then they won't be able to do it. Right. Literally, you could enjoin anything. Yeah. And it doesn't have to. Yeah, like it doesn't have to be the Supreme Court that does it. It has to be. It could literally be some guy in BFE who is who just has a burr up his butt. Anyway, I just wanted you guys to hear that absolute, stupidity of this woman. But let me get back to the other part of this, though, is birthright citizenship. And I mean, guys, okay, how does this have to do with conflict? Well, this is literally the civil conflict that's going on within our country. And when we get so just like Roe v. Wade, when we get a good decision on this, because I get the feeling based on what I've been hearing, in the analysis, that this is probably going to be a little, this is going to change things up, because there are some very strong arguments that go back to the writings at the time and how they understood this to be written, that it did not have anything to do with with illegal immigrants. You had to have some sort of, domicile. You had to have legal domicile within the United States in order for this to apply, i.e., slaves, right? But not ambassadors' kids, right? That was the way it was kind of determined. And this is just the next thing that Antifa is going to use as a reason to go blow up a power substation or something like this. So I think it's important for us to understand the rationale that these fuckwits are going to use, that are going to be causing trouble in our local neighborhoods. Any thoughts on that, guys, before we move on?
I honestly think this is probably the weakest thing that Trump has taken to the Supreme Court. I just, based on previous Supreme Court rulings on this, I don't think it's going to go his way on this particular aspect of this case. I think he is going to prevail when it comes to these nationwide injunctions.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's going to prevail on this particular point. But I do applaud him because he ran with this as an item on his agenda, and he is doing everything in his power to fulfill it. I just don't know if this one's actually, out of all of them, I felt this was kind of the weakest thing to lead with. Now, I could be completely wrong. I didn't attend law school. I don't know these things inside and out. I think a case can be made both ways. I just don't think he's going to win on this particular front. Based on previous Supreme Court rulings.
Yeah, I think it's. I think there's some interesting stuff there. I agree with you that there's more precedent for support for birthright citizenship than there is for the injunctions. But if I'll be honest with you, if we could get the injunctions to go away and lose the fight on birthright citizenship, then I think that's just a matter of being, well, then that's fine. You just take the laws to the. You create a law that then really makes it hard for people to come here and use the birthright citizenship right as like gamify it. So, for instance, like that would completely outlaw these tourist, mother households that the Chinese run,
birth tourism,
things like that. Birth tourism, yeah. I mean, I that's the kind of thing that just fucking infuriates me. So
I agree.
Yes. Watcher, this is, I know you always kind of feel feel uppity about some of this stuff. What do you think?
I sure as hell do, but I think this whole Supreme Court shit's pageantry. I think that unfortunately, people who Trump put into that court are perfectly capable and willing to stab us all in the back, and have proven that time and time again when the chips are down.
Yeah, I think we got two members on the court that are solid right now, and I think that's Alito and Clarence Thomas. All the rest of them are suspect based on. Gorsuch is better than Amy Coney Barrett, but anyway.
I do have a bit of breaking news. It's slightly related. So it's not the Supreme Court, but it is a federal court. So just this morning, while we've been broadcasting, federal judge Matthew J. Kaczmarek ruled that the 1964 Civil Rights Act does not, in fact, mandate that employers have to use the employee's preferred pronouns or allow them to access restrooms or locker rooms based on their gender identity.
Yeah, good. That's a win. The small wins, you got to take them when you can get them. All right, let's move on. So I haven't heard a good Glenn Beck conspiracy theory in a long time, and the sad thing is Glenn Beck is second only to oh Jesus Christ,
Alex Jones.
Thank you. I was trying to say Alan. I was like, not Alan. What is his fucking name? Anyway, Glenn Beck is second only to Alex Jones and naming the conspiracy theories that sound like absolute, like, the first time you hear it on his show, you're like, what? And then like 2 years later, like, oh my God, Glenn was right. And yeah, he's a little less bomb thrower than Alex Jones, but let's be honest, he's not nearly as entertaining. So I haven't seen a good Glenn Beck conspiracy rant in a while, but I thought this was pretty good because it really rings true. And I think I haven't done a whole lot of research in this line of thought, but it's definitely something I'm interested in. So I thought maybe we could watch this video and get your guys' takes on it real quick. So let's open that one up.
Back in 2019, 2020, I was one of the first people to tell you about something called the Great Reset. That was being planned. Remember, it's a giant conspiracy theory. Oh, la, 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 la. Now it's absolutely known that is exactly what was going on. The progressives found the perfect opportunity due to the pandemic to merge the elites and their corporate conglomerates with the governments and try to seize control. A new world order was being planned, and it was supposed to happen by 2030. This is a place where the top 1% would reshape the global society, and every lever was being pulled to see it all through. Green energy was the enforcement tool. It was the climate change was the big scary thing. And they used that to leverage the banks and the financial system to pull absolutely everybody in. And mechanisms like open borders, strained, already weak, social economic fabrics. They were channeling Cloward and Piven. National, state, and local governments were pushed into a situation where it was overwhelming and collapsing the system. That's Cloward and Piven. Systems like the U.S. economy, that were once considered too big to fail, were now being forced to fail. They were being forced into default through unsustainable spending and debt increases. It is actually a brilliant system if you believe the world's going to come undone anyway. So, and you're a little bit evil, let's design something where we can all profit, screw the little people, but we'll all profit, we'll be fine. And let's maybe just kind of ease it into collapse so it'll fall right into our hands.
Yeah, so he's basically taking some of the old Cloward Piven and some of the New World Order stuff and kind of and bringing it into the current era and letting us know that, like, listen, these people haven't gone away. They're still here and they're still active and they're trying to get what they want. It's a little harder for them to do it because it's kind of out in the open now. But ultimately, they also don't care if we know about it. Blaine, I mean, this is hand in glove. Like, going back to the first place I heard about Cloward and Piven and Acorn and the Tides Foundation and all that kind of stuff was Glenn Beck's program back when he was still on CNN. And I was listening to his radio show, but he was, this was before the CNN show came out. So this would have been in the 2000s. I mean, this is like red meat for anybody who's been reading Blue Dawn. This is exactly that kind of scenario.
Yeah. What screwed him up was it's like Foundation when Mule shows up. You have a disruptor, and the disruptor in this case is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a disruptor on a global scale. He has literally gone to the Middle East and has changed, their economic course and the structure of how peace is going to unfold over there. He has been a disruptor here in the United States. And, notice we have not heard about the Green New Deal. We pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. Last time they did that, they screamed about it. But you know what? He has torpedoed the entire Green New Deal. And there hasn't been a peep from the left about this. They're so overwhelmed with everything else he's doing. He is the ultimate disruptor. Now, it paints a huge target on his back. And we have seen James Comey. But I got to be honest with you. It's literally, he has disrupted their plans. And I think he's disrupted them. Even if Donald Trump were to disappear right now, there's enough people there to carry forward everything that he has started. And I think this idea of globalization, et cetera, and the New World Order, they've been hurt. They've been dealt a kick right to the crotch. Couldn't happen to a nicer group of people, by the way.
Well, I think you're right on. I think you're right on two things. On the one thing, you're right. He is the mule. Great reference, by the way. Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. I hope none of the people in the chat caught the TV show. I saw the first 2 episodes and I was like, "Fuck this! I can't even make it through this." But yes, the books are great. And then the second one though is, and I think this is a classic kind of like, oh, we've won, so we don't have to be careful anymore. And they don't even realize the game's not over yet. And so when it's like the mask fully comes off. And it's like, if you read any of the WEF stuff, they basically lay it out in written form, exactly what the kind of stuff that Glenn Beck was talking about just, 5-10 years before. So, that's no better confirmation evidence than when the actual organizations that are doing these great resets come right out and tell you they're doing it.
Well, you look at what our Secretary of Treasury did when he went to the World Economic Forum and the World Bank, and he said, you're not going to be handing out loans. You can't treat China as a up and coming economy. They're established. You guys are not going to hand out this money this way anymore. The United States is asserting itself back on the world stage. And Donald Trump is like Conan the frickin' Barbarian, and he wields the might of the United States economy and military and every aspect of the United States like a goddamn sword. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And we needed this for some time. It is such a stark contrast to the Joe Biden years. I mean, it is just, someone standing there as Conan the Barbarian and someone standing there as Pee Wee Herman. It is literally that level of contrast.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Joe, what's your kind of take on Glenn's and his current theory?
I'm still trying to figure out what he was wearing. But, but the Great Reset thing has been real. I don't know if there was really any doubt. They actually said it openly and clearly, so I don't know why we're talking like it was a conspiracy theory. They've said
it. But I say that tongue in cheek, but anyway, go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
He's just reporting the news at this point. It's not some great prognostication. It's just the truth, right? There they are.
Well, right, and that's the difference between conspiracy theory and predictive analysis is like, if it's a left-wing person, this is predictive analysis of what these racists are going to do versus if a right-wing person says it's a conspiracy theory.
Well, we are we've shortened the window from about 5 years to about 18 months from conspiracy theory to fact. So,
yeah. No, you're 100% right, Joe. And I think that's a good kind of call for us to keep it in mind, right? I mean, we can say it tongue in cheek, hey, this is a conspiracy theory, because, we're all people call us conspiracy theorists, right? But that being said, it goes back to that linguistic point we were talking about before the show, is that this is the left's gaslighting of the entire world by using language that
I wear
clouds
it like a badge of honor, because conspiracy theories have been proven right more than
the
big
news,
facts.
than mainstream media, right?
Yeah. Well, isn't that what I said when I said fake facts? Mainstream media, same thing. Right?
Yeah, right. All right, gents. Real quick, let's do a shameless promotional segment. We'll go around the horn, and then we'll do brush beater. Blaine, I think Watcher has the Amazon link to at least the not the Audible, the
ebook
Kindle version. Yeah, can you pull that up, Watcher, just so we can show the graphics to folks? So you got a new Land and Sea book coming out. You got Tenure in the hopper. What can people expect with this new Land and Sea book? Kind of just explain to them where it fits into the continuity.
Well, this is a trilogy in the Land and Sea series that deals with the second year of the war. And there's a lot that it goes through 8 or 9 characters' profiles and kind of covers what has been going on with those characters. And this is the final book of that trilogy. So it really brings to closure a lot of that. You have some of the characters from the original trilogy in here. You have some of the characters from the new trilogy. And there's some folks that don't make it, which is great. I think it's amazing. I was cracking up that, we have this huge political deep state player in this trilogy. And it just mirrors so much of what's going on in our modern world. I thought I was doing him way over the top, and it turns out I wasn't doing him deep enough, which really scares me at times. But
I'm sorry, he's my favorite. I love that character. You've made a lot of fantastic characters that people connect with. Jay Drake it's so good.
Well, I'm not talking about Jay Drake. I'm talking about Wilson, who is the head of the CIA, who manipulates getting control of the extraterrestrial task force. And, he's this deep state player. And, his comeuppance is one of my favorite parts of this book because it crosses multiple characters. I just have a lot of fun with this series. It's just fun to write.
Yeah.
July 24th, Tenure 2's audiobook will drop. And I'm just finishing up right now book 3 of Tenure. So it's a production cycle at this point. And we have a comic coming out, I heard.
We do, and it is stepping closer and closer to the finish line. We also have Doorkickers going to the printer as soon as we can get the print file back. So it's that's like literally at the verge. We had a problem with the print file, and we're getting that corrected. Let me be honest with you. You have to be really detail oriented, and I am not naturally a detail oriented kind of person. So I'm lucky to be surrounded by people who are like, hey, what is this dotted line? Is this in the letters, or is this,
Luckily, we have established a new protocol. Where that will now be the very first thing we do.
So, and the other thing too, and I know, Blaine, you appreciate this because you kind of done a lot of stuff, discovery learning over the years, is that a lot of times you learn things in the process that you didn't know before, and you have to just kind of take that note so that the next time around you look for it, but ultimately you'll find something else. So.
Yeah, we catch stuff that even last night at 9:00 at night, one of the early readers spotted a typo, and it was like we had to kind of pause everything and correct it. It just happens.
I unfortunately did that too on book 1. I felt bad.
There hasn't been a book published in the 21st century that doesn't have a typo or some sort of grammatical element that someone out there disagrees with.
Before we move on, I just have to say this artist, oh my gosh, the cockpit layout, the UI design is excellent. I love this unit patch. I was waiting for Joe to say something, but that's
Oh yeah, that's that's Colton's Cutthroats, man.
I love the unit idea. This is one of the things that I really want to do. You know, the kind of as we go down the line in the Paradise series, you know, especially the first arc, I want to turn, you know, Mandy's Menace into like you know, like really develop it as a unit, you know, because right now it's like some military people attached to some refugees, but as the fight kind of goes on, you kind of have the wheat and the chaff kind of get separated. So I'm looking forward to kind of developing that. So it's
I found out
cool.
You need to do some digging. There's a Marine Corps brig in Hawaii. And as Chesty Puller said, take me to the brig so I can see the real Marines.
There you go.
Yeah, I tell you, man, I'm having fun with that idea in the new series that I'm doing within Land and Sea. So yeah, I'm breaking a bunch of guys out of the brig and turning them back into Marines again.
You got a little Dirty Dozen kind of thing coming up for the folks, right?
Yeah, it is, but it's Marine Corps version of it. So,
which is always better. It's always better.
It's always better, and you get to have all the, you know, even by the year that this is set in, the Marine Corps still gets crap equipment, and they're at the low end of the totem pole on everything, and they know it, and it doesn't bother them because they're just badass.
You know, I will say though, say what you will about Army versus Marine, but I'm going to have to go with Lee Marvin as probably one of the best American, you know, Hollywood soldiers ever. I mean, no matter what uniform he was wearing, because if I remember correctly, he played Marines and Army in various different movies. So.
I have to do this, Bugatti. You need to go buy that book we just had on screen right now and go read the dedication.
Yeah,
yes,
do it now.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right now.
Somebody pull it up.
Can we share that? Is that
you can share the dedication. And
on,
Mark knew this was coming. I warned him.
It was in our group chat. Let me find it.
While you're looking that up, Joe, what's going on with the people that we can tell them about with Tactical Wisdom this week? You got a big week this week, so you got your hands full.
Yeah, we've got the NC Scout RTO course starting in about an hour, where you can learn to use everything radio related. Learn everything about your Boofwang radio. I got one somewhere here. Oh, yeah, I got one right here ready for class. Learn all you need to know about that and other types of radios, including HF radio and building field expedient antennas and learning how to actually make communications rather than just owning a radio and thinking you're good. So you'll come out and learn everything about that. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to do the SIGINT course where we learn how to gather information using our radios and spectrum analyzers and all that kind of stuff. After that, we've got a few other things. We're going to have a night fighting class by NC Scout where we get out and use IR lasers and our night vision and thermals to engage targets. And Kay from Combat Studies Group will be here teaching close quarters battle over in the big building. And Kay is a guy who's been there and done that in more countries than I can list. So pretty cool stuff. And then I'm going to round it out with community security ops. And we've got a really good group of guys who are coming out here and stand for the whole thing. So come check it out. Come join us. And by the way, tell your friends to buy my books, man, will you? Got to pay the bills.
Here's the dedication in Blaine's new book to my fellow Wargate author and friend, Mark Sibley. Mark, this is how you write a sequel, or 8 of them. You should try it sometime. Oh, that goes
the thing
hard.
Is, Mark tried to defend himself online and said something like, well, hey, we got the Apocalypse and Pieces part 1 and 2. And I'm like, yeah, you outsourced that.
So Sibley sent me the first 10 pages of book 3, and minor spoiler alert, but he did he did bring me back in it. I did survive the attack by the Chinese tank, but it's there's sort of a twist to that. So you'll enjoy it. The first 10 pages are fantastic. There is some gratuitous bayoneting action. So good stuff.
That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. A good bayonet to the belly always does the heart fine. Okay, so
I got to peel out, guys.
All right, hey Blaine, I appreciate your any thoughts on old Comey real quick because that's what we're going to talk about next on his beach message.
Well, first, they're going to find those shells on the beach and then check for his fingerprints, which is going to be hilarious. Second, I'm really kind of hoping that we get a cavity search and it's
it's a video. I'm looking forward to the perp walk.
You're not going to get it. Comey's not going to, everybody's screaming, oh, this is it. He's going to go to jail. He's not going to go to jail. But he's going to be major inconvenience, and it's going to cost him a lot of money with his lawyer. And that's how this game needs to be played, is when these guys do this stuff, they need to put the pressure to them and make it expensive for them. And in Comey's case, that's exactly what they need to do. The concept that he is somehow ignorant about what 86ing somebody is a joke. My grandson, who's in high school, knows what that is. The man's he's a consummate liar, and his credibility's been shot. And he did this all to kind of tie in with a book promotion that he's got going on right now. So, it's the worst book promotion idea I've ever seen. That's my take.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it's absolutely clown shoes. And so let me. So Blaine, we appreciate you being here, brother. I don't want to hold you any longer. You're always welcome here, and good luck with the new book. I'll be purchasing probably multiple copies of this as normal in multiple formats. So looking forward to. I you know what I don't have. I don't have printed copies of the Land and Sea books. I need to get printed copies, but. Yeah, so those are ambitions. All right, Blaine, see you, brother.
Later.
Thank you. All right. Before we do the gratuitous brushbeater.store ad, I want to just say that you guys have been very supportive of the show. If you are interested in supporting us even further, there are a couple different ways you can do that. There is the super chat, which you guys always ring the bell on. There's also the memberships, both on YouTube and on Rumble. If I had my druthers, I would say Rumble is where we would prefer memberships, but either one is fine. I appreciate both. It's different platforms, different purposes, right? If I'm honest, I watch a lot more YouTube than I watch Rumble. But if the stuff that I watched was on Rumble, I'd watch it over there. And then the final thing that you can do is, and so anyway, I say that because we've got a $20 super chat over on Rumble. Whatever Karen for $20 says, y'all are awesome. Thank you for all your hard work keeping us informed. Except for Blaine, he could have made Angel. Karen, just kidding. Let's see. Coglins Phil for 431 says, so that's Phil Coglins. For $10 says, anything about Blue Dawn, or did I miss it in my busy back and forth to Europe lifestyle of mine? Yeah, we talked a little Blue Dawn earlier. Nothing on new books, but I think he said he has one more book left in that series. That one is almost over with. And then Herntz, a Dirty Roofer for $2 said, if the Marines weren't underfunded and supplied, how'd they know we'd love them? That's true. You show a Marine you love him by not giving him enough money. It forces him to the adapt and improvise thing. Right. Okay, gentlemen. Time for the brush beater ad. Let me pull it up here. I got a good one today. I got the thumb. I read it for the guys backstage before we went live, just to kind of get the thumbs up. My brushbeater.store content officer here, Joe Dolio, gave me the thumbs up on it. So here we go. All right. Welcome back to the Council on Future Conflicts. We're proud to bring you another ad for our steadfast sponsor, the Brushbeater Store, equipping you to stand strong in a world of threats. President Trump's bold moves in 2025, brokering peace in the Middle East, show what resolute leadership can do, calming tensions from Gaza to Syria. But let's not forget the chaos elsewhere. In South Africa, white farmers face what Trump calls a genocide, with land grabs and violence threatening their way of life, a crisis echoed by his ally, Elon Musk. Rewind to the Rhodesian Bush War. If Rhodesians had had access to the brushbeater.store's gear, they might have held the line against the ZANLA's communist guerrillas. Today at brushbeater.store, the DM32 radio with AES 256 encryption offers secure comms to coordinate under any threat, from urban unrest to rural defense. Pair it with NC Scouts 2025 Scout course, teaching recon, patrolling, and survival skills in North Carolina, Missouri, Montana, and beyond. Skills Rhodesians could have used to outmaneuver their foes. Check the brushbeater.store/collection/training courses to join now. Use our exclusive code CFC10 at checkout for 5% off the DM32, the Scout course, or any gear like night vision or ballistic helmets. Orders over $100 shipped for free. Visit brushbeater.store and stand ready. A huge thanks to our friend Matt, the owner, for his unrelenting support. Matt, your commitment to the Council on Future Conflicts and our fight for freedom is inspiring. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and prepare like a Rhodesian. Now let's drive into today's episode.
So I have an announcement to make related to that Scout course you just talked about.
Yeah.
I have begged and groveled from the boss here, and I will be doing a fieldcraft course immediately before the October Scout course. So we're going to be at Mountain Readiness that second week in October. There'll be a one-day break, I guess, for Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever they call it this year. Then we'll jump into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday fieldcraft, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday Scout course, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday recce. So it'll be a great 2 weeks if you come to North Carolina, and there'll be a lot of fun stuff going on.
And those two directly, those two directly build on each other. So that's a great 1-2 punch.
Absolutely.
And if I'm honest, I know that a lot of people don't have the time to take 2 back-to-back courses, but if you do, that's the way to do it, because you get that kind of steady learning progress. And not only are you building on the skills and it's kind of going up the tiers like that, but it's also, your mind gets in the right mindset, right? And so time, more reps over a shorter period of time is how you build that stuff. That's how we do it in the military, and it would work here too. So,
and in the fieldcraft skills, everyone who's taken the class and taken Scout have said that the fieldcraft skills enable them to perform better in the Scout course. So absolutely, they do build on each other, and it gives you an immediate application of the skills you learn. So good stuff.
All right.
And for Dove Omega, why not both? You can join me in North Carolina and then join me in Montana. We got lots going on.
I know there's some good stuff going on in this community. Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, if you ever wanted to find a way to join in and get to know a good community of people, these classes are a great way to do it. All the people involved are rock solid. And the skills you learn are very are critical. All right, let's jump in to segment number 1. We're going to talk about South Africa. Joe, I mean, this is one of those kind of things. We've been talking about South Africa with our buddies Gideon and
K9 Reaper. You were about to throw out his real name. K9 Reaper.
I know. His real name popped in my head, but I was trying to think of this. Anyway, we've been talking about this for a long time. We've had these guys on the show. If you're a long time viewer, you're not going to be hearing anything that you've never heard before. The key thing is that the world has all of a sudden become aware the plight of the South Africans. Now, part of it is because, you know, Elon Musk has a very big megaphone, and he has a similar viewpoint as us, but he focuses on it from a different standpoint because it's very personal to him. You know, we kind of look at it as, you know, hey, there's two pieces, right? That these people are basically under genocide conditions, and the second thing is that what is happening there is going to be happening here if we don't get a control on our country. And this kind of takes us back to shows we did last week where we said, hey, listen, you know, things look great on the surface here because Trump has got a lot of great policies that we're all, happy with. You know, he's securing the border, but that doesn't mean that the kind of underneath the surface, there isn't a kind of a churn that's going on. You know, we kind of touched upon it with some of this, you know, great reset kind of stuff. They're still kind of working to destabilize and top the Western order with that whole mess. And you've got, and as part of that, you've got the neo-Marxists in various gazes in America that are kind of working in the background, looking for their opportunity. So you can go from everything's great to literally 30 days later, looking like a South African shopping mall that's been, you know, looted and completely trashed.
Hey, Scott, before we get started, I have a bit of breaking that adds context to every single story that we're about to read. And it won't. Is
it the last one is it the last?
Did you add it to? Let me check.
It's always been
okay.
It's always been there. Yeah, that's been there since the beginning. I didn't know if you just hadn't seen it or not.
Yeah, I haven't. We're good.
So this first one up is, they're not being discriminated against. Well, let's let Elon kind of bring a name that if you're a fan of Canine Reapers or Gideons, you've heard the name Conscious Caracal. And so he's sharing let's see, this is is Donald Trump right about South Africa? This is a full documentary, topics 142 plus race laws and expropriation act, kill the Boer, farm murders, and more. Support AfriForum. Basically, this is AfriForum's documentary, basically a full length documentary on the plight of white South Africans and how they are stymied at every turn at being legitimate members of the South African society. It is literally illegal for them to do the things that many of the South African blacks do on a daily basis. And then on top of that, you've got the outrageous political rhetoric used by mainstream members of the South African political party system. And it literally a race war or an actual, like murderous genocide where, mass genocide could break out at any moment in that country. And guys like Canine Reaper, I mean, they're so outnumbered. Now the good news is he knows good people and he's got a good network being involved in community security. So he's got a chance, but I mean, it's going to be an uphill fight if it ever really breaks bad for those guys over there. So let me read Elon's post here. South Africa now has passed 142 laws forcing discrimination against anyone who's not black. Even though I was born in South Africa, the government will not grant Starlink a license to operate simply because I am not black. This is a shameful disgrace to legacy of the great Nelson Mandela, who sought to have all races treated equally in South Africa. The sad thing here is that Elon has fallen into the classic trap of thinking that the good guy Marxist is okay, like, hey, we should all be like the good guy Marxist.
Where Elon Musk came from. He was originally a leftist.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, right, and I don't know that the classic leftist liberal elite white in South Africa is even like conscious of, they may have the knowledge or they may have heard, but they don't see Nelson Mandela as a terrorist, as a bomb throwing terrorist. They see him as, he got past all that, right? Just like Jelani in Syria, right? he can put a suit on. He can talk nice. He can shake hands with Donald Trump. He's still a terrorist. He's still a Al Qaeda terrorist, as far as I'm concerned. And so you have to, everything he does after that, you have to call into question. Okay, yeah. So maybe Jelani and Mandela were basically trying to kind of like cash in, right? So they're completely corrupt. Okay, they're completely corrupt people who are also in the past terrorists. So you have no idea what they would do in the future. I think the only thing that probably motivates them ultimately, these types of people, is they're willing to save their ass. And look no further than Winnie Mandela as a kind of a measuring stick about the kind of people that Nelson Mandela surrounded himself with. Winnie Mandela was a piece of fucking work.
She was a monster. Yeah.
So anyway, this is
figuratively. She was literally a monster.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like she was worse than Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, by a factor of 10. Yeah.
All right. So this is kind of just sets the stage for a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, because essentially we have to put this in the context of just this week. The United States emitted the first, well, I think it was like 50 to 70, 59 white South African family members were brought into the country. And people are absolutely losing their shit over this. They don't think that they should be able to, they shouldn't be able to immigrate here because they're not refugees. They're not under threat. The white people are actually still taking advantage of the black people, is what they say, which is fucking ridiculous. They're 4% of the population, and they don't even hold the reins of power. So you can't even say, oh, well, it's a vestige. Oh, well, they own most of the farmland.
Look,
there's no farming culture in these black communities.
Yeah. Well, yes, unfortunately, they were they had not reached the scale of agriculture on.
They were pastoral hunter-gatherers when the first European colonists showed up.
Actually, no. There was no one there when the first European colonists showed up.
No, I'm just saying, yeah. But the people in that entire southern part of Africa, that's all they did.
So famously, this woman on Twitter this week said, despite having been in South Africa for 400 years, the Afrikaners don't speak Zulu. Well, the Zulu have only been in South Africa for 200 years. So perhaps they should be learning to speak Afrikaans.
Yeah, weren't they in like Angola, that kind of area?
They're further north, and the Zulu nation as a whole wasn't a thing until Shaka Zulu united the tribes, and that didn't happen until almost 1800.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the amount of cognitive dissonance that you see coming out of the left, I mean, it's emblematic of the left. I mean, that's how you know you're dealing with somebody who's a true leftist, is that they don't know what's actually happening in the world, And if you want an example of that, just watch any of these college kids debate Charlie Kirk videos on YouTube. It's less about how Charlie Kirk owns them and more about how absolutely clueless leftists are about the issues that they are passionate about. All right. So this wise guy who has some tactics to share shares this next post here. It says, almost like Rhodesia should have been a lesson. What was he talking about here?
That guy's smart.
I know, right? It's almost. I wish that guy wrote books so I could just kind of like learn from his lessons. Tactical Wisdom book series, all 6 books.
Right.
Yeah. 90% of farms seized from the Boers by the Bantu commies are lying derelict. Nobody told the Bantus that farms require hard work, so they didn't bother. This was the catastrophe of for farm animals, most of which had to be euthanized. Yeah. So here's the interesting thing, right? Is the agriculture, like mechanized Western style agriculture, mass agriculture, is not kind of native to this part of the world, right? It just wasn't a cultural aspect. They hadn't unlocked that tech tree in their culture in their game of civilizations, right? And so because of that, they only have that because it's something that's been brought to them. Now, when the people that brought them a given technology or whatever, if they can't see immediate use for it, they basically say, well, I hate you anyway, so why would I do the things the way you do it, right? And so thus they lose this tech tree and they are now completely clueless, right? Even the cattle ranching and the grazing and the kind of herder kind of pastoral stuff that they did have unlocked in their tech tree, it doesn't work on the kind of land that the Boer and white farmers are able to make it work on because they're using modern techniques and the types of breeds and everything that they're doing it very differently. And so when they get these farms, it's like they don't know what the fuck to do with them, so they abandon them. That's a victory over Whitey. Now let's go back to the township and have some beers, right? Yeah, are you going to stay and farm this land? Fuck no, I'm not going to stay. You stay, And so it's like, well, okay, you've won. What do you do now? Well, I don't know. I'll go back and get drunk, I guess. So this is a perfect example. Thousands of chickens euthanized in South Africa after they were left starving and eating each other. Like I said, they haven't unlocked that part of the tech tree yet. Many such cases, nobody's told the farmers they had to look after farm animals. Parliament Speaker Thandi Modise pleads not guilty to animal cruelty charges. Dozens of carcasses of emaciated animals were discovered on her farm in the Northwest in July 2014. It's very similar to like the Chaz people and things like this. Like, their idea of farming are box gardens, like urban box gardens. And the Chaz proved to us that they can't even do that right. Joe, I know you've got some pretty steady thoughts on this. You want to kind of give us a half a rant?
I'll give you a half a rant, maybe even 3/4 of a rant. No, not really. Yeah. This is something we've talked about forever. It was Thomas Sowell said it best. You do not solve racism by becoming even more racist. You don't pass racist laws to try and compensate for former racism. And sure, apartheid was bad. It was wrong. But you don't then use apartheid to combat apartheid and say that every company has to have a certain percentage of their workers of a certain race, or any new licenses can only be issued to this group and the other group is out. I want to point out the biggest and most glaring thing that has happened in the last week, and it's that it exposed refugees are welcome here for the lie that it is. Only certain refugees are welcome here. All those folks who have those refugees welcome here signs sure rushed to take them out of the window this week when white refugees showed up from somewhere. They don't want them. It exposed that the entire Great Replacement theory is true, because it said, no, it's about the right to migrate. Everyone on the planet has a right of migration. Well, when 59 people of the wrong complexion attempted to migrate, they were told they couldn't. And that's wrong. Everyone else can migrate except this one group of people, which in all honesty is the minority on the planet. So I think that the biggest thing you can learn from the South African thing is it exposed to you the lie that American leftists are out there, right? They do want to replace you and they do want to kill you.
I mean, there's a lot of white guilt, self-hatred in there too. That motivates it. Lance Corporal veteran for $10. The South African SA was occupied the Kosian, aka Bushmen, who were hunter-gatherers. The Zulu pushed them into the Southwest. The Zulu were animal herders, pastoralists, right? Seasonal grain farmers during wetter years. Yeah, see, that was just it. Like, they were opportunist in how they did it. They didn't do agriculture the way the West did.
And they weren't actually settled in the land. They would go there for a month or two, go somewhere else, and come back. Yeah.
Squishy Hunter here. Let's see. Over here in the Rumble chat, Squishy Hunter for $5 says, accepting the Afrikaners has completely one-shot leftists and South African government's credibility. We should have done this years ago. For the record, the Boer has a stronger claim to South Africa than any Bantu. Yeah, because the Bantu came there later, right? If you want to,
came there to take advantage of the work opportunities and things that the Boer brought. So,
Western medicine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look! It didn't just one shot him for the immigration lie. Like it went a lot further. You flat out got top Democrats saying that white genocide is justified.
I've
got a video if you'd like it.
Yeah.
Phil Coughlins for $5 in the Rumble chat says, the only African farming culture is the workers on the land, and guess who gets kicked off the farms too? Yeah. The workers are basically called Uncle Toms, and they're kicked off too, and they lose their jobs.
Well, in the biggest point that I was making about the Rhodesia / Zimbabwe thing is that they tried exactly this before. They drove off all of the white farmer and drove out all of the white businessmen from Zimbabwe, expropriated their land without compensation. And then what happened? They went from being the breadbasket of Africa to literally starving to death because they couldn't grow food because no one knew how.
Yeah.
It's going to come full circle.
Joe, my understanding is, didn't you say that some of the South Africans are being settled not too far from...
Yep, one family has been settled in Missoula, Montana, about an hour from here, which I think is actually a good fit. This is a ranching and farming community. They're in the right place. So, welcome to the South Africans coming here. And let me just say this for everyone in the chat who's listening: we are all Rhodesians now, right? And Rhodesians never die, right? You got to keep them north of the Zambezi, or as I like to reword it, south of the Rio Grande.
That's exactly right. I'm willing to redraw
one of the best
border.
memes to come out of 2024, 2025 is that in the war to impose global socialism, we're all Rhodesians.
Yeah. All right. Let me move on here to the next one. Let's see. Yeah. So this is interesting, right? And so you're starting to have a lot of people in South Africa start to kind of, hey, the world's looking at us now. Let's start kind of talking about this a little more. And some people who have been silent up till now, who maybe their skin color is not the same tone as ours, is more like a black from South Africa, is basically calling their own government and their own shit. So how do the people in control handle it? We'll play this video here.
And all their inner circles here in Parliament who went to the United States to spin a narrative of victimhood of white people being murdered by blacks, mobilizing the United States government to interfere in the domestic affairs of our country. What measures, if any, have you used to scrutinize these treasonous acts of white right-wing racist extremist movements, especially in relations to how they are funded, so as to protect the imminent threat of civil war in South Africa? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Push pause, Watcher. Go ahead, Joe.
Imagine wearing the red jacket of the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, and calling someone else racist. I can't square that. So.
Yeah, that's a square. So this is the answer.
As indicated earlier, the law enforcement agencies are investigating the treasonous act of misinformation and also that which is provided for in the, I forgot the right naming of the act that talks about treason in the country.
In the empire, truth is treason in the empire of lies.
I'm really mad about this thing that I forgot the name of.
George Orwell.
She's brilliant.
She's brilliant. If you go down to the next, right there, that one right there. Pull that headline up. Not the cartoon, the headline just above it. I haven't even read the cartoon. I'll find it and read it. But South African police opened treason investigation into critics of the government. So exactly what she just said. Basically, they're saying that if you lie about us, if you say anything that doesn't meet our narrative, then we can theoretically make you guilty of treason.
Well, them being descendants of the English monarchy, it makes perfect sense because that's what they do in England.
Well, yeah, England has learned from its colonies. Happy Plague Doctor for $10 over in the Rumble chat says the eternal Thompson gunner was still wandering through the night. Now it's 10 years later, and he still keeps up the fight in Ireland, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Berkeley. The right-wing atrocity. Oh, you're black. You're wearing an EFF thing. Oh, never mind. Carry on. Death camp for white farmers. Yeah, it's pretty weak.
I'll point out once again that if we are being historically accurate, concentration camps first appeared in South Africa when the English rounded up the Boers during the Second Boer War.
Though I do believe that America has the distinction of actually inventing the name concentration camps. But you're right.
The British literally call them concentration camps.
Were they? Did the British?
Yeah.
All right.
They were concentrating the Boers in smaller areas to protect them.
Yeah. Concentration camps were great until the Germans hooked ovens and
the Germans
gas
had
showers.
To screw it up.
All right, that might have been a too edgy of a joke, but hey, go figure.
I'm just saying that as a kid with ADD, going to a summer camp to learn how to concentrate was a very interesting time. And I'll just leave it at that.
Now, Watcher, don't be the edgelord you were when you were 15. All right, let's move on to our next topic.
Speaking of edgelords.
Yeah. Speaking of edgelords.
It's not edgy when James Comey does it, gentlemen. So this is a Zero Hedge story. Former FBI Director James Comey posted a photo of seashells arranged in the numbers 8647 in his Instagram account today before shortly deleting the post. Now, gentlemen, how could Domestic Friday be talking about conflict or future conflict or any others? Well, let me just give you former government officials advocating for the assassination of the president as Exhibit 1 in how you can get domestic. You can go from what seems to be a good domestic, outlook to absolute dog water domestic situation. Potentially overnight. Won't somebody rid me of this priest? Is essentially what James Comey is saying. The immediate preceding post, James Comey lounging at the beach while pretending to read his own crime novel. His presence at the beach leading to the fact that this was not a hack. Many are blasting Comey for issuing a not so thinly veiled threat at sitting President Donald Trump, including the president's son and Congressman Andy Biggs.
I'm going to go a little further than this, actually. This author didn't do enough research before he deleted his Instagram. He actually posts pictures like this all the time where he paints little shells with the political messages that he wants and places them on this beach.
Oh, so this is not the first time?
Mm-hmm.
It is not the first time. This is the first time he's gone to this level, though.
Yeah. Okay, so his explanation, so he deletes the post and here's the explanation. He goes, I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on the beach walk, which I assumed were a political message, although I'm not smart enough to figure out what they were. I didn't realize some folks associated those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took down the post.
That's completely false.
Oh my God.
Because we had the same controversy when Gretchen Whitmer had a sign in her office that said 8645. And if you didn't know that as a FBI director, then you're an absolute and utter moron. So
also, yeah, I'm going to pretend that I didn't lay these out on the beach. I just found them this way, even though, again, I have literally come to this beach and very obviously placed shells that I either painted or collected and organized for stuff like Vote Harris or dumb shit like that. Like, it beggars belief that a man would do this. It's like a child flipping off their parents when their backs are turned.
Squishy Hunter, let me just kind of disagree with you on this one. It's not edgy when Comey does it. It's just cringe. No, if Roseanne Barr were to do this, then that would be cringe, because that would be a boomer who has no real power in the world posting something that's cringy because she's like when James Comey does it, a man who had the federal mandate and the federal monopoly on the use of violence under his control under the previous administration and the original Trump administration, then that man is somebody who is not being cringy. They are issuing a threat that they can absolutely action if they so choose. And like I said, I think it's very much a case of, would somebody not rid me of this meddlesome priest or whatever?
No,
and the day before, go down to the next picture, Ed Krasenstein posted the same thing, almost like this is going around, like in circles, and Ed Krasenstein posted, "It's time, 86-47 in pool balls," and this was on 15 May. I guess is that the same day? Yeah, no.
Yeah, they all started doing it afterwards. Comey did it, and then everybody else started doing it to try and
no. Krasenstein's was the day before. Comey's was on the 16th. Krasenstein's was on the 15th.
Yeah, they're all definitely not in a private telegram together. Not at all.
Runs in the family, as covered previously on Zero Hedge.
Remember earlier in the week when I said, hey, if they're willing to say things like this out loud, you have to wonder what they're saying behind closed doors. Well, here we are, right? These people would legitimately want to overthrow the government, and they legitimately want to kill Donald Trump. This is especially significant given the fact that there are some highly suspicious aspects to the first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Let's see. From Epstein to Diddy, spotlight shines on James Comey's prosecutor daughter. Comey's offspring smell a little swampy as well. This is from another Zero Hedge piece. In a thinly covered story from December that's suddenly relevant again, New York prosecutor Maureen Comey, who refused to prosecute Hillary Clinton for mishandling classified information — that was her father who did that — and participated in the Russian collusion hoax, joined the prosecution against Combs. The younger Comey was previously worked as lead prosecutor on both the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell cases, as well as the former Epstein. You got to have trustworthy people involved when you're going to bring these potentially dangerous names up. Maureen Comey, because a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York became a U.S. attorney in Southern District of New York in 2015. In 2019, when she was just 30, Comey became one of the lead prosecutors in the Epstein case. 2 years later, she became one of the 3 lead prosecutors in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Epstein's partner in crime and daughter of suspected Mossad operative Robert Maxwell. Before becoming a U.S. attorney, Comey clerked for U.S. District Court Judge Loretta Preska of the SDNY, who notably oversaw a long-running defamation case filed by Epstein crime victim Virginia Giuffre against Maxwell. Comey also was involved in the case of Nicholas Targaloni, a former NYPD officer who was convicted of killing 4 men in 2016. And was briefly Epstein's cellmate in the Manhattan Metro Correction Center. Tartaglione claims to have helped Epstein after finding him unconscious and totally not trying to kill him prior to Epstein's actual death. In 2016, Tartaglione suspected a man named Martin Luna had stolen money from him, for which he tortured Martin and then forced one of his nephews to watch as he strangled him to death with a zip tie. Good Lord, this guy's a piece of work. So yeah, the fact that James Comey's daughter is now involved in a second case where high-profile celebrities and politicians may have secretly filmed engaging in sexual activities with minor can't have anything to do with it. This is what you call a limited hangout, and you've got an agent on the inside who's able to do damage control. I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that some of the higher ups are not getting all the information they need on these. Squishy 100 for $5 over in Rumble says next Comey will say he was only pretending to be retarded. Yeah, well, I mean, he's
doing a really good job.
Excellent use of meme.
So anyway, so this is kind of like, what is the White House having to deal with this week? Well, this is like the most recent thing. It's interesting. All this crazy stuff's happening in the world. Of course, we're talking about this. The left-wing media is like, why the hell are we talking about James Comey? This can't be that important. But yet it is important.
Wait, are you kidding me? I'm sorry. Can anyone imagine the absolute aneurysm they would have had if somebody from the Trump administration had done this with 8646?
Well, FBI
in prison the next day.
I know. Well, I mean, and this is not political speak. Like, let's go, Brandon. This is a literal threat. And this is not the only place Donald Trump is getting, kind of official flack from the resistors. Here we've got Air Force Command Board got tagged with FDT, which means fuck Donald Trump. This poster says, Hegg says, when you're serious about addressing the infestation of sedition in the military, hit me up. We've had the pulse on this behavior for years. So this shit's been going on for years. 4 fucking years.
What's interesting is it's the Air Force is probably the biggest offender in it, with the Army second behind it. So
evidently that's the 97th Intelligence Squadron. Shocking that we've got these types of neo-Marxists
here's what's interesting about that.
In the intelligence community.
It being an intelligence section means there's a very, very limited list of who had access to that wall. And everyone knows who's on that list. We'll see if Air Force OSI actually does something about it.
I don't know about the Air Force, but I know for a fact that the Army has a decided lack of CCTV cameras in a lot of these types of headquarters buildings where these types of command boards are located. So I guarantee there's no video coverage of this. I don't know. I think there probably should be, but I'm just saying.
I think the Air Force intelligence wing probably does have cameras.
I would hope so. So what would somebody be able to be charged with on this? Well, under UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 88 is contempt towards officials. Any commissioned officer who uses contemptuous words against the president, the vice president, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Military Department, the Secretary of Homeland Security, or the governor or legislature of any state, commonwealth, or possession in which he is on military duty or present shall be punished as a court-martial may direct. This could go high and right for whoever did this.
Could spend some time in Leavenworth. Good riddance.
The worst thing we ever did was close Portsmouth Naval Prison.
How about this one, Joe? This is a federal statute. Seditious conspiracy. If 2 or more persons in a state or a territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow or put down or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, shall then be fined under this title and imprisoned not more than 20 years or both.
That sounds a lot like sedition.
That's right.
Look, I personally, Diatica says we need to rein in the political activism inside the officer corps hard. I completely agree. I think that Hegseth should have started with like full-on commissions addressing each and every officer and doing interviews, not just of them directly, but also of their work over the last 4 years, in order to determine who amongst the officer corps are communists and to expedite their exit from the military immediately.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of witch trials, but when the information comes across your desk, you got to act on it. I mean, let's be honest. If you're a leftist and you're kind of keeping your head down and you're not kind of expressing your opinions, then you just do your job. That's the whole point, right? To be apolitical.
If you did express your opinion over the last 4 years, you're completely fair game.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, if, like, let's say you're just, not like an activist, but just, generally supportive of the policies under the Biden administration, and then you keep your mouth, and then you keep your mouth shut. Now you're fine. That is the appropriate level, right? That is the appropriate level. The problem are the people who come in and just constantly hector people. Oh, you think Donald Trump's great? No, he's, and they go off about the commander in chief. Like, I'll be honest with you, the days. In my active duty time, I didn't say anything negative about POTUS. I commented on policies from time to time, but I never said, "Hey, like this person, blah blah blah, like XYZ 1 2 3."
That section you just read from 2783, I believe it is 18 U.S. Code 2783 or 2785, one of those.
Yeah.
Applies to all of these people who are joining arms in front of an ICE detention facility, who are literally committing sedition. And if you're a judge who snuck a person wanted by the federal government out the back door, you also committed sedition. So,
by the way, hilarity there, isn't she trying to claim that she has the same sort of immunity as Donald Trump? I thought that's the last update.
She does not.
Yeah,
because it was actually outside the scope of her employment, right?
Yeah, yeah. Before we move on, though, somebody said something here, and this is absolutely true. Listen, if the officer corps is not disciplined, I cannot tell you what happens to the good order and discipline of the lower enlisted. It is one of the most poisonous things you could possibly see done, is to see officers acting out and not getting punished for it. This has to happen. Like, it's not even a question. And I think they are trying to bait it somewhat. So, like, I guess we should at least watch for that somehow, like make sure that we've fully got our ducks in a row before we act on any of this information. But
yeah,
these guys need to be, like, every single thing that can possibly be brought against them, compound those charges, get them done, and then see if any of them have civilian charges that can also align with those as well, because some of them most certainly will.
All right, let's move on with the next story here. More of the White House business from this week. White House. So we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday. White House has presented Iran with a written nuke deal proposal in huge first. Now, I honestly, I added this right before the beginning of the show, so I did not read this all the way through. So I'm interested to find out. So we'll be finding out about this together. With President Trump and his envoy having arrived in the UAE for the last leg of the president's Gulf tour, new details from behind the scenes of the U.S.-Iran negotiations have come to light on Thursday. In a huge first, Donald Trump's White House has sent Iran a written proposal towards forging a new nuclear deal. The White House envoy, Steve Witkoff, has led several rounds of talk, and Axios has revealed that the communication was issued to Tehran last Sunday. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Agachi took the proposal back to Tehran for consultations with the Supreme Leader Khamenei, President Masoud Pezeshkian, and other top officials. It was the Iranian side which initiated the swap of written proposals first, as the talks have been on since April, went indirect from indirect to more direct. During the third round of talks in late April, Agachi gave Wickoff an updated document with Iranian ideas for a nuclear deal. This time, Wickoff took the document. The U.S. team experts studied it and sent Iranians a list of questions and requests for clarifications. The Iranians replied and added questions of their own, two sources said. Meanwhile, Wickoff and his team prepared a U.S. proposal laying out the Trump administration's parameters for an Iranian civil nuclear program and requirements for monitoring and verification, the sources said. It appears that thus far both sides have received the other's written proposals positively, and that's what was driving President Trump's olive branch comments on Tuesday. He had stressed while speaking in Saudi Arabia that this is not an offer that will last forever. The time is right now for them to choose. President followed up on Thursday by saying that from Qatar that we are in very serious negotiations with Iran for a long-term peace. He said, we're getting close. Maybe this deal, maybe doing a deal without having to do this. There are two steps to doing this. There's a very, very nice step, and there's the violent step, and I don't want to do the second. Trump's comments followed an NBC News interview with a top military nuclear advisor to Iranian Supreme Leader, who said that Tehran is prepared to sign a nuclear deal provided key conditions are met in exchange for lifting U.S. economic sanctions. And then Trump also said from Qatar that essentially the emir or whatever of Qatar was instrumental in talking Donald Trump off the ledge from just schwacking Iran earlier in the year, and that he was a big part of making this process happen. NBC News pointed out that these comments appear to be the clearest public statement yet from Iran's expectations and willingness to reach a deal from the Supreme Leader's inner circle. And the fact that the written proposals have already been exchanged is yet further confirmation of the positive trend towards peace. Trump has emphasized that Iran can never have a nuclear bomb, but Tehran itself has long said it's not pursuing a nuke, which is a lie. And that its program is only for peaceful domestic energy purposes. I wonder if maybe the reason why they're not actively going after a nuke is because their nuclear scientists keep blowing up in various different.
They are actively pursuing a nuke, which is why their nuclear scientists keep blowing up in various. Listen, there's a comment that I want to start my comment with. Stevie J, listen, I appreciate you. I'm not calling you out, I promise. But you said you can't wait to hear from the neocons in the news why peace with Iran is a bad thing, actually. I think we can all agree I am not a neocon. I hate them. However, I will say, is peace with Iran actually possible in Iran's current format? Does Iran seek peace?
Yeah, I mean, actions speak louder than words, right? And thus far, all of the negotiations are just words, right? Even if they sign a deal, like take an action, right? Then it's a matter of, okay, so what does their ongoing support to the Houthis look like? How is the IRGC still trying to, establish its networks in Iraq and Syria, which I guarantee you it's still trying to do.
Pretend it works out perfectly, and they drop all those connections for 4 years, right? The entire time Donald Trump's in office. Great bully. I do not believe that they won't immediately pick it back up as soon as someone who will be more sympathetic to them is back in power in the U.S.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And let's be honest. Let's say the current political leadership in Iran actually say, listen, this 40 years of this crap is too long. It's time for us to start making money again, right? So in order to do that, we've got to acquiesce, right? Okay, great. 5 years later, both those guys are out of office and dead. And you get a new hardline regime comes in. They say, fuck this, we're making a nuke. And they can just do with that, right?
And then they'll have the material on hand.
Right. And so that's the thing. For me, I can't imagine that that any kind of enrichment ability, and they've already been able to enrich uranium to weapons grade. So it's not like this is something they've never done before. This is something that they've literally done. The estimations is they've already had enough weaponized uranium that they could, make multiple bombs. They just haven't been able to go to final processing and assembly is evidently the long pole in the tent at this point, which, and I don't know if the North Korean nuclear scientists that are working for them or the Pakistanis are not, if it's just not working out or what, but.
So given this, what sort of peace can we pursue with this? I am never the first one to say let's jump into war, but what is the point then when Iran is kicked on the floor? All of their little partners have been thoroughly kicked in the face. Most of their assets have been destroyed. What is the point now of letting them back up off the floor?
Well, I mean,
I'm not saying go to war even, but
yeah,
at least just continue to enforce the goddamn sanctions.
Well, the irony is that if you don't have any kind of substantial regime change, and it has to be led by other Iranians, it can't be done from the outside. It has to be an internal revolt against the regime. That essentially puts paid to any ability for the Ayatollahs to continue to be the shot callers in that country. That's the only way you could potentially get to a peace. Now, that being said, who's to say the new regime would be any better, right? Maybe they're a secularist group that is Persian nationalists who want to reestablish the Persian Empire. And so then they go on the warpath. So I mean,
that's the Ayatollah, actually.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying I'm saying going back like before, the whole Ayatollah, the Muslim bit,
I know. I was just joking with you, Scott. I was just joking.
Well, I know it's the same thing, right? They're just doing it under different flags.
So I think that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And Iran has entered into multiple agreements for multiple things, multiple times, and they never once followed through on their end of any agreement. So I would just like Watcher said, just continue going right on down the way it goes. So
I'm not going to say that we can't have a good outcome on this. And, hey, maybe Trump is able to this time next year get Iran to sign on to the Abraham Accords. Maybe, I don't know. That being said, I don't think that's likely. I'm not hopeful. I'm not gonna be putting money in the bank based on the fact that I trust Iran to do anything. But if they give us good words and they then follow with good actions, and that's great. You go back to the old Reagan era trust but verify type thing. Because I'll be honest with you, I would have never believed that the Soviet Union could change its stripes. And sure enough, they completely did. And the way they did it was through internal regime change, not some sort of defeat from an external source that solidifies.
Yeah, they had their fair share of gunplay involved, though.
But, yeah.
Stevie J, well done, brother. Well done.
We was Cessnids. Very good. Anyway, so this is another kind of a big news thing for the White House this week. So we will continue to follow that story and see where it goes. Like I said, hopeful, but watch and learn. It's rare that we get to see this amount of jackassery that the executive branch has to just completely nuke from orbit. But essentially, that's what we saw with RFK Jr. in his first major hearing as the HHS secretary. Everything you said was essentially dishonest, is a quote from him. So the article says this was a masterclass. A dentist congressman came out swinging on fluoride. By the time Kennedy finished, he realized he'd picked the wrong fight. Then a Democrat tried to accuse Kennedy of politicizing children's health, but he got emotional, broke through the noise, and completely flipped the script on her. If you watch one thing today, make sure it's this. Kennedy just took the MAHA agenda to the next level. Right out of the gate in his first major congressional hearing as HHS secretary, Kennedy laid out a sweeping plan to reshape HHS from the ground up. Here's what's on deck: ending gain-of-function experiments, full crackdown on fentanyl and drug addiction, $94 billion towards better food, fitness, and childcare, FDA action to remove toxic chemicals from the food supply, slashing wasteful National Institutes of Health projects, merging mental health and addiction programs for faster, better care, giving local leaders more power to fix problems in their own communities, a major upgrade to Head Start and early education program for the low income. Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this video. I don't know how long it is. Yeah, this clip is watchable. Let's
be clear. We intend to make the Trump HHS not just the most effective, but also the most compassionate in U.S. history. Our official budget statement outlines many priorities, but I will highlight a few. First, we will consolidate programs to better tackle mental health and addiction. These issues now rival chronic disease in their impact. HHS will aggressively combat the opioid crisis, especially the spread of synthetic drugs like fentanyl. We will empower state, local, and tribal leaders to create effective solutions. Second, we will address nutrition, physical activity, and healthy lifestyles. The president's budget requests $94 billion in discretionary funds to support these priorities, including the Administration for a Healthy America. We will emphasize healthy eating and Head Start and ensure the program continues to serve its 750,000 children and parents effectively. Third, we will equip the FDA to expand its food safety efforts through research, regulations, independence, and education to remove harmful chemicals from food and packaging. And we're already doing this more aggressively than any other administration in history. We will fund cutting-edge research at the NIH while cutting risky or non-essential services. That includes ending of gain-of-function experiments and research based upon radical gender ideology.
I mean, I didn't hear anything in there that I have a problem with, guys.
Only thing that is troublesome to me, and I get he's trying to go in the right direction, but expanding FDA regulatory mandate. I'm never a fan of adding on more government regulation, but I get it. He wants to get the harmful ingredients out of food, but
I'll add one that I'm not a fan of. Listen, Head Start, everybody loves it. Everybody thinks it's a great idea. If you want to look at the numbers, it has no impact on children. Increasing the funding every time we've increased the funding has no positive impact on children. The only thing this is state provided daycare services. And if we're going to do that, then we need to be honest about what we're doing so that we can stop funding it at ridiculous levels to do things that aren't actually benefiting our children.
That's a good point. Yep.
100%. Anyway, I thought that was just a kind of a good news story. I like when these Trump appointees actually do what kind of like what they're deliver what they've, we've had too few of them that have really kind of stepped up to the plate. So it looks like Kennedy
yet. So,
well, I know, but at least he's actually talking about the things that he should be focused on. Whereas, say, FBI and Justice aren't even talking about the things that they should be focusing on. They're talking.
Well, I don't know. They're talking about that they're going to release the Epstein list. They're just not doing it.
Well, fair point. But they're not doing it. All right. So the last one is near and dear to my heart. I thought this was not quite the White House, but it's still the executive branch, and it's just part of the challenge. Let's be honest, anybody who takes on this challenge, Godspeed to them, because I don't. This is like what the definition of a wicked problem that I wouldn't know where to begin on. The DoD audit conundrum: accountability over accounting. The Department of Defense has failed every audit since 2018, costing taxpayers over $1 billion each year, marked by disclaimers of opinion, along with thousands of formal notices of findings and recommendations. The DoD Inspectors General report documented 228 material weaknesses and more than $1 trillion in asset discrepancies, leading auditors to issue the 7th consecutive disclaimer. Audits of the DoD's financial statements guided by federal accounting, the FASAB rules, based on private sector general accepted accounting principles, assess the DoD's $850 billion budgets using the profit-driven reporting mechanisms of balance sheets and income statements. This approach is suitable for private sector profit-seeking businesses like Boeing, IBM, and General Motors, but not the DoD, a public sector taxpayer-funded federal agency. This mismatch stems from the 1990 CFO Act, which, although well-intended, was unfortunately caused Congress and the public to prioritize financial health over military accountability. Let's see, the complete inability of GAAP-based financial accounting and reporting to address such questions or explain the causes of ongoing inefficiency and waste, such as the Navy's $1.8 billion wasted on cruiser modernization, highlights the irrelevance for an agency that spends, not earns. The problem is scale and systematic flaws. So the DoD's complexity dwarfs private sector firms. Revealed. Somebody told me that if the DoD were an independent company, it would be like the largest company in the world.
And its owners would be its leaders would all be imprisoned.
That's right. Let's see. It revealed that DoD employed 2.1 million service members and 778,000 civilians across 4,600 global sites, managing $85.7 billion in discretionary funds, half of U.S. discretionary spending, and $3.8 trillion in assets, 70% of the government's total. And I don't believe that that's 70% of the government's total balance sheet assets, but anyway. Tracking those resources across 4,500 financial systems makes monitoring obligations and matching them to appropriations difficult. At least 232 are critical for internal controls over data entry, transaction processes, and reporting and auditing nightmare. I know this is kind of like wonky, but you kind of have to understand the problem before you kind of talk about it. But the DoD is truly failing its fiduciary responsibilities, or is it trapped in a flawed gap-based process irrelevant to its purpose? This is a legitimate question. I don't necessarily think that this is true, but I think it's a legitimate question. Is it the process that's failing, or is it like an actual failure of fiduciary responsibility? Now, I honestly believe there is a failure of fiduciary responsibility all throughout the federal government. That said, I don't know that that's necessarily the end all be all. Let's see, the FASAP directed balance sheet shows $3.5 trillion in assets and a net cost of $821 billion spent in FY22, mimicking GAP's business-focused standards. However, 37% of the unverifiable assets, according to GAO independent auditor, aren't a loss, but a record-keeping issue. In particular, material weaknesses contributing to hold on a second here. We got Ursula Theodorus for $20 in the Rumble chat. Thank you. That is not a cheap donation. Thank you. Good morning, CFC. Combat Corgi is happy to finally be off the road. Everyone, please be pursuing a first aid TCCC class. Be ready to work. 100% agree with this. I co-sign this. If you don't have the skills to do do the business when it's time to do business, then you can't kind of buy that one, right? You've got to earn it over time. Joe, this kind of gets to some of the stuff you preach. You got any thoughts?
No, just I got to get going to get over to class. So
yeah, that's right. You take care, brother.
All right, we'll see you. And hey, Ursula Theodoros, glad you made it all the way across the country. See you guys.
Hey, tell everybody we said hey.
I will.
All right. Continuing on. So would a better approach be like management? So could you manage your way out of this? Because like, hey, listen, these processes don't work for the DoD. Let's see, a budgetary review process using managerial cost account organizes financial data to help DoD. A former RAND analyst argues that DoD has neglected this tool and is underappreciated and underused. He argues that statement of federal financial accounting standards mandated by Congress tracks costs to outputs and is a better approach to evaluating the DoD budget, ensuring funds align with goals. For example, $82 billion in aid to Ukraine can be traced to emergency laws and evaluated for outcomes. Unlike GAAP, this approach monitors obligations or commitments, ensuring the compliance with appropriations and justifying variances, not chasing asset liability matches. That makes sense. I mean, like how are you actually using the money, and is it being used the way it was that you were told? This is the kind of thing that, okay, I could get behind this as a alternative. I still think there's fraud, waste, and abuse going on. This, let's see, converting those programs into budget requests and then executing it, or what is referred to as planning, programming, budgeting, and execution process. This process was first introduced in the 1960s by Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, who brought the business-like budgeting process from Ford Motor Company to the DoD. It has undergone several adjustments and improvements, creating an arduous but for the most part effective method. However, it routinely receives scrutiny and is subject to of recent reform and questionable overhaul requests. They spent a shit ton of money back in the 60s building, the 50s and 60s, building a military to fight the Cold War. I get the feeling that they did a lot better job of accounting for every dollar that was being spent back then than we do now. And in some ways, the growth of the military from, say, the Korean War to where we were, at the height of Vietnam, it's just something that we haven't seen since then. While the commission made several strong recommendations to enhance the PPBE process, it neglected to tackle the elephant in the room, the way the DoD conducts audits. So is there a more modern way of handling this? So this is where they come to AI-driven. Actually, I'm glad that Joe left for this portion because, he loathes every time we mention AI for any useful purpose. I'm just kidding. He's not a boomer. One of the primary challenges in achieving a clean audit is reconciling how the DoD distributes funds. Thousands of systems, hundreds of checkbooks, and various financial systems create an almost insurmountable bookkeeping task. Until recently, manual efforts by thousands of auditors costing $4 billion in audit remediation since 2018 were necessary to examine DoD's finances. But the business are struggling to reconcile billions of obligations, payments to the chaotic financial system, poor bookkeeping, and internal control challenges. With the advent of AI and more forensic accounting approach to execution, it's become possible to scour the DoD's 4,500 financial systems to trace obligations, detect fraud and waste, and confirm legal transactions. Using Advana platform, the AI-driven forensic accounting can trace questionable spending, such as the DoD's. You know what I wonder? I wonder if you were to take one of these AI-powered accounting software platforms and just plop the DoD budget on it, like would it just essentially say, error 500 or something like this? It's just kind of like, would it basically just start spinning and never stop? One of those kind of things. I mean, Watcher, I know you're pretty smart on AI. I mean, is this something that AI would actually be able to really help with?
No, absolutely. No, I mean this. Look, like auditing, particularly forensic auditing, is one of those things that it's talking about pattern recognition.
Yeah, pattern recognition, which is what AI is actually pretty good at.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of similar to why AI is better than doctors at reading X-rays and various other scans. It's I don't know how else to put this. Yes, this is one of the areas that AI is far better at humans at, and can do work much faster.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't trust any AI platform that DoD developed. Now that being said, DoD's got some pretty smart people on their payroll, so like Palantir and some of these other companies that are leading some, some high-end AI. Elon Musk has something to say about effective
this doesn't,
AIs.
Sure, but this doesn't, like, this kind of stuff, to be able to audit something like this doesn't even take a necessarily like heavily trained thing. You're talking about like a basic LLM that you could work up on some other auditing training data where you pointed out like,
well, the key thing would be giving it all the tokens you need in order to be able to look at all of this stuff over time, like, because it would just be a huge data set. Sorry, Dave, but I can't do that. That's exactly right. That's what Grok would say if you said Grok. Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Elon. I can't do that. What needs to change? So it's traditional business audits suitable for the DoD? I think the answer is no. I think you probably need some sort of custom process for DoD, but I don't know, maybe that's something else AI could help develop. Hey, what would be the best process to audit this data, right? And it would come up with some, unique ways to do that. Anyway, when I read this, I mean, this is the kind of thing that keeps me up at night, right? Is the idea that that we just can't even figure out like how many M1 tanks we have, or we can't keep, it's basic accountability. One of the things you learn as an officer in the military early on is the importance of property accountability. And I don't understand how we can teach and like every year, good officers get held financially liable and have to pay out of their own pocket for military gear that goes missing. Sometimes it's legitimate, and other times it's through chicanery, right? But that being said, these are the kind of things that it's hard for me to justify the DoD charging young captains and lieutenants and sergeants and for gear that is essentially disposable, in a DoD kind of context, when they can't even keep their own books.
I'm 100% with you.
That's the pot calling the kettle black, and on a galactic scale.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Who though has the clout to hold the people responsible that are going to need to be held responsible?
Well, but see, that's just it, right? Like, it has to come from within. Any good solution, and I don't mean within the DoD, I mean within the executive branch is where it has to come from. And I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know who the right person to make that answer. So this is what the author says. He says the DoD's audit failure stemmed from applying GAAP profit lens to spender's mission. 7 disclaimers over $1 trillion in asset discrepancies and 28 weaknesses prove FASAB's flaws. SFFAS 4 and AI forensics offer a fix. 18 billion equals 5 ships. 5 billion equals 55 F-35s, traceable to law, not ledgers. Amending the CFO Act, mandating SFFAS 4 and funding AI and Advana will deliver accountability despite challenges like training and resistance. A phased approach ensures feasibility. Congress and taxpayers deserve answers to what did we get, not where's the receipt. This shift makes 850 billion count. There are estimates that you could literally lop off 300 billion in just inefficiency and redundant systems in the DoD, and not have a discernible difference in the actual capabilities that you could bring towards the fight.
Well,
Now,
I have
that
to
is
say something.
arguable, but
I have to say something that's a bit damning. We're less able to track our DoD budget in the age of the computer than we were when we were fighting a world war on two fronts in the age of the slide rule and the Rolodex.
yeah. I understand though.
That speaks to me that it is intentional.
Here's the thing. I don't know that it's intentional, but I don't know that it's not either. You know what I mean?
Kind of. It's just like some of this stuff is so simple. It's like the solutions to many of these things are not difficult things. They're so not difficult things that it makes one go, so we're not doing that on purpose, right? Because that happens to benefit all these military contractors and all the high up generals who are associated with them getting kickbacks and all of this other shit everybody knows is happening. And we find out 20 years after it's too late to charge people about it that it happened, but no one's ever willing to admit that it's currently happening right now as well as it always has been.
Derna for $5 says, remember when the Army bought millions of smart boards that were scribbled on with real markers? Bridge Farms remembers. I remember those smart boards, and I never saw anybody write on with real markers, but I'm sure they did. I always thought those were pretty cool. Like you do all this whiteboard shit, and it printed out the like a paper printout of the whiteboard. That was pretty handy, I thought. Now, here's what you need, Watcher. You need essentially a whiteboard that will not only be a scan of what you put on the whiteboard, but then have AI translate it.
Well, what's the funny and neat, the great thing about that nowadays is back in the day, you'd had to invent something with like pressure plates that could detect where it had been written on, or like capacitive surfaces that could tell whether the ink was on it. Nowadays, you literally just point a webcam at it. Just point a webcam at the whiteboard. Our image recognition is good enough.
Speaking of that, have you seen the what is it called? The image recognition, the Grok image recognition, where you point the camera. It's like Grok looks through your camera and says what it sees.
Oh no!
Have you seen this?
No.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to give that a shot. I am hearing that I am needed.
Yeah, well, that was the last thing. So, real quick, watch your thoughts for the week or weekend. Anything you think we're gonna?
Yeah, I wanted to let people who are up there and hoping for a bonus edition of me to know that I do have prior engagements tomorrow, so expect me sometime around midday Sunday.
All right, sounds like fun. That's as far as I'll be honest with you, I think we're going to see some interesting when Trump finally gets back to the States. I think we're going to see some interesting stuff develop. I may not have liked a lot of the stuff that he did, but I think he did it all for the right reasons, and he did a good job. It's just I wonder if it was a good idea, for instance, to stand next to Jelani and to give that guy any trust. So we'll see if he has a little buyer remorse with that. But I think that should be interesting, and I look forward to seeing how that shakes out. That's all I got. Watcher, thank you for being here. I appreciate Joe and Blaine for both being on as long as they could. Chat, you guys were very generous today. Thank you very much. A lot of donations and awesome contributions to the show. If you wouldn't mind, though, before you end, hit that like button. It's free. If you don't want to send a super chat, that's fine. You don't even have to subscribe to hit the like button. So just hit the like button. And if you would, then also subscribe. That's free. And let people know, hey, Council of Few Conflicts is laying down the law. So, I guarantee you're hearing about stuff from us that you're not hearing anywhere else. And we appreciate the fact that you guys get something out of this. So thank you very much. Watcher, once again, thank you. Chat, you guys are killing it. Stay safe over the weekend and stay out of trouble. Be with your family. Have a good time. And like I said, stay safe.